What? Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for another edition of the Orns 10-minute take on Watford nil, Blackburn Rovers 1. And Saturday afternoon was not an afternoon for fighting as far as Watford were concerned. Wearing their blue shirts, especially designed Sir Elton John edition of the Watford kit. Back in the days when Watford used to wear blue, printers blue, back in the 1950s and into the 1960s, before turning to their more traditional colors, of course, the ones you see me wearing. Watford were wearing blue kits, a little bit like these, but the blue looked a little different. A record-selling kit, the fastest-selling kit that Watford ever put out. And the lads wore that on the pitch today, and after this performance, it would be safe to say that they will never wear those kits again. So Elton John was in attendance today at Vicarage Road, and he surely did not like what he saw, and nor did I or any other Watford supporter. Watford just were second best, a distant second today, against a Blackburn side coming into this game low on confidence, losers of three of their first four championship games this season, without three of their players, two of whom injured, one of whom suspended. A Blackburn side that had a lot of turnover during the off-season and some concerns amongst some of the Blackburn fan base that this could be a very difficult season for the team. Valérien Ismaël was also on Blackburn's side, the former Watford manager, as the Blackburn head coach now. And they got the job done today, and deservedly so. A deserved win for them, a performance where they played much better than we did and were much more composed and much more aggressive in front of goal than we were. It was a Watford side that was supposed to be energized and G'd up by Elton John, by the wearing of this new blue kit, the special edition designed by Sir Elton, but it just didn't come off that way. Watford lacked ideas, lacked energy, passion, desire, hunger, urgency, fire. It was all gone, extinguished like a candle in the wind. I guess that's why they call it the Blues. And Watford showed how poor they were today and will be in need of some retooling and some energy. They've got 9 days to figure out why they were so bad, and they've got 9 days to figure out how to be so much better than this. This was the first Watford game this season where Watford were poor the entire way through. Genuinely poor. Now, we've had some games where Watford have had a poor first half or a poor second half, or they've just been a little bit off the pace. But this was the first game of the season in which Watford were just poor the whole way through. Even though Paolo Pezzolano put the subs on, and he put them on 10 minutes or so into the second half, and roughly a few minutes after the opening goal, the only goal of this game in the second half, an early conceded goal again, as it was 2 weeks ago against Southampton. The subs had a very brief impact. Very brief. Nestori Irankunda came on, Ido Kayembe came on, and for about 5 minutes there was a buzz of energy about the place. Watford looked rejuvenated, invigorated, but then after that, they just quietly went back to the very poor performance that they had executed for the previous half before that, and never changed. No change in the way they performed, no change in the attitude whatsoever. It was just one of those days where Watford just did not get anything right. The final pass, the link-up play, the midfield, everything was not good. And although Egil Selvik was not especially busy in this game, he saw a lot more action in front of his goal, in front of him, than the Blackburn goalkeeper did in front of him. The Blackburn goalkeeper was not made to even earn his wages on this day. He must have been the happiest man in the building. But look, the bottom line is that Blackburn deserved to win the game. Let's be fair about that. Blackburn Rovers earned this win, and a team that was short on confidence, a team that had lost three or four, came into this game and played a whole lot better than we did, outplayed us, outthought us, and out-strategized us. And we just didn't get this right. The head coach, in fact, took this one on the chin for Watford. He actually admitted that this was 100% his fault. In the post-match comments, Paolo Pezzolano admitted that he takes full accountability for this defeat. Now, I think he's being a little bit harsh on himself because although you could argue about, well, he should have played more subs, well, he should have done this, well, he should have done that, the players just didn't perform. Just didn't perform. And I know you might say, well, the international break, well, the kits, well, five changes, well, insert your next reason here. But the lads who played just didn't perform. They just did not play well. They were very poor. Max Lane, who started the game fairly well, did not continue the rest of the game well. He went downhill as the game progressed. Hector, the protector, so good in the first 10 or 15 minutes, was silent for much of the rest of the game. Matty Pollock back in the side for the first time this season. Remember, he did not play any championship game. He was out because of injury, playing his first championship game of the season. Look, he's getting back into the swing of things, so I can be fair about that, but didn't make a real impact. Kevin was okay, but you might question that was he responsible for that goal being scored? It wasn't all his fault. There was no defensive backup behind him. Musa Sissoko had a few minutes, but then mostly disappeared from the game. Midfield was overrun anyway. No Emran loser because he's suspended. We've got injuries still. Pierre Duoma was not in the lineup. Obviously, no Georgie. Could have used him today. Could have used Imran Loser today. He served the last of his three-match ban. And Luku just was nowhere. He was non-existent today for Watford up top. Luka didn't do a thing. Didn't do a darn thing. And missing in action on the side of a milk carton, could we put out an all points bulletin for Luka? That was really the case today. And you had Dumbia playing out left, which was a head scratcher for me. Look, I know the manager's mixing and matching. He talked about giving players a chance and evaluating them based on what they do during training. Well, Mamadou Doumbia was lively. He was aggressive. He had the only real chance that Watford had in this game, and he should have buried it, hit it wide, instead of hit it into the open goal that was telling him, hello, Mamadou, I'm here for you. But you can't put Mamadou Doumbia on the left-hand side. He is much more effective down the middle. That's where he thrives. That's where he is at his best. That's where he can really harass central defenders and make their lives a misery. And frankly, I would have preferred you put Doumbia in the middle and put Luca on the left, for goodness sakes. I know that Luca's a trademark striker, but Luca was very ineffectual in this game. And listen, it's a thankless task for any striker in the game of football. It's the hardest thing to do is to put the ball in the back of the net. We know that in football. And strikers just have to create space, find the channels, time the run, remember to stay on side for that, and all the rest of it. Create space for others to work in, and be a conduit for other players, and be aggressive. But Luca was just not there today for me. Kind of reverted in my mind back to the Charlton game where he really didn't get into the grips of the game. But Doumbia was very lively, and I think had the manager decided to put Doumbia in the middle or switch him to the middle and maybe put Luca elsewhere or take him off and bring on Semedo. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Semedo also was a striker, so that might not have worked well. But had he made an adjustment there at the top, maybe we could have got a more of a threat on Blackburn's goal. Look, I'm not blaming the manager, even though he blames himself. I'm not blaming the manager. I'm blaming a poor performance. And it was poor. It just was. Blackburn had much more control, and what this Watford side did today, I thought really dictated what would happen in this game. Watford came into this game instead of with the full head of steam that gave them three previously undefeated performances. They were unbeaten in the last three games. They came into this game waiting for something to happen rather than making something happen. And that's the reason for me why Watford did not perform, and that's why they ended up ultimately losing this match. Because you gave a team low on confidence the incentive to believe in themselves. I really do believe that. And if Watford had come out with a full head of steam to start this game, if Watford had come out on the front foot, if Watford had come out with the energy and aggression that they had in the previous three games, I think the result would have been different today. I'm not saying Watford would have definitely won the game, but I do say that Watford would have made a showing of it and would have given Blackburn a lot to think about. But Watford were never on the front foot in this match. They just weren't. And the longer that Blackburn in the first half were looking at us, thinking, hang on a minute, this lot haven't really done anything to us. We better start upping our tempo a bit. And Blackburn did that. And it didn't take them all that long to do it either. You know, their striker, their new lad that came in there, Masashita, I believe his name is, and I forget the exact name, so forgive me for mispronouncing his name. Mashushiti, I forget how you pronounce his name, and I'm sorry. But you can pronounce this goal because that's what he scored. And in the first half, he hit the crossbar, and very fortunately for us, that's what he did because Selvik was never going to get it if it went in. And the bottom line is that Blackburn created some belief in themselves, and the lack of the passivity from us, I think, allowed Blackburn to feel like, wait a minute, we actually can believe in ourselves. And lo and behold, Blackburn did that. And the longer it was nil-nil, the longer I thought that Blackburn were going to start to turn up the volume, and they did. And Blackburn have not been terrible away from home. I think they've actually been better in some of their away performances than they have been at home. And they showed you today that they should not be taken lightly. And I don't think Watford took them lightly. I just don't think that Watford did anything at all to threaten Blackburn. Didn't put a glove on the goalkeeper, didn't lay a finger on him, and one shot on target the whole game. The first 40 minutes, we didn't have a corner until the 40th minute. And by then, Blackburn had had five or six corners. Unacceptable performance from us. And I think every Watford fan knows that. I think all those Watford players know that. And Sir Elton John in the stands today knows that. It was not a good return to the Vic for him, but it was a very good return for Val Ishmael, the former Watford manager, who is, as you know by now, was sacked in 2024 after being here for almost a full calendar year, arriving in May of 2023. It just was not something that I was hoping for. I didn't want our former manager to come back in here and do one over on us, but it was a very satisfying trip to the Vic for Valérien Ismaël, our old friend. And his team deserved to win. Simple as. You know, they should have had more than the one goal they scored. We never responded to that goal. And the bottom line is we had no ideas, no strategy, no real direction. We just looked like we were all at sea. We didn't sink. We didn't have any fluidity or chemistry today at all. What else is there to say about this? Except I think we can retire those kits now. And those kits are good. And Elton John did a good job, great job designing them. They look lovely. But not on the pitch. They certainly didn't look that way today. And that's a case of, I guess that's why they call it the Blues. We have 9 days to get this right, as I said. Against Millwall, that'll be quite a game at the Den. We don't normally play well there, but we're going to have to play a whole lot better than this. And I think it's safe to say that we will. This has been the Orns 10-minute take.